What's up YouTube, Joker Renegade here with Discount Trading Cards. I'm here to bring y'all a new deck profile that I actually just put this deck together and I finished it up this week. So, as always, like, favorite, and subscribe, leave comments, tell me what you think I might need to change about the deck. This is a deck profile for Infernity decks. I'm thinking about maybe doing a segment or two on Infernities, talk about the loops and how they can be played, talk about the multiple loops that Infernities can go into and how they can set up such a defensive, thing to where they're actually good to use. Infernities have been killed a lot in the ban lists. Launcher was dropped to 1 and Trishula was dropped period. So they're still a good deck to run. I think it's one of the only skillful decks left in the game. So here is my Infernity deck list. 3 Infernity Necromancer. That's basically your summon card from the grave, that's just staple to run 3 of those. Infernity Archfiend, staple to run that. It's your search card of the deck. I run 2 Avengers. I do side in Beetle sometimes if I'm going to go for the Mist Wurm loop, but I've liked Avenger better right now in case, monster, one of your Infernity monsters gets destroyed, he can be special summoned, and he takes upon their level, so that's also a good ability. 2 Infernity Mirage. It's a great card to use. Set, tribute, and you get 2 Infernity special summon from the grave. Not a lot of people run this card. Infernity Guardian. It saved me in a lot of duels. You play it, and if you have no cards in your hand, it can't be controlled, or it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and damage calculation is not applied. So if you have an attack position and somebody attacks it, you do not take battle damage from the difference of attack. Or at least that's how I have thought that it's supposed to be done. The card says nothing like Marshmallow says that battle damage is applied. This does not say that, so if I'm saying that wrong, somebody correct me on it, leave comments. I always want to see what people like to say about, changing up my deck. Plaguespreader Zombie, he is the only 2-star tuner I have in this deck right now. I would have Beetles, but I like to run Plaguespreader because if I draw an extra Infernity monster my first turn, I can Foolish Plaguespreader and then return an Infernity to the top of my deck to special summon Plaguespreader, and then I can go off on the fact that I have no hand. So that's really good. Plus he's a 2-star tuner. Armageddon Knight, I run one of those. Armageddon Knight's good to summon and then, ditch a Stygian Street Patrol or Plaguespreader Zombie, whichever I need at the time. Dark Grepher, great card. You can ditch a monster card out of your hand and a monster from your deck, dark monster from your deck to the grave, and so that gives you ability, and it's a once per turn, so once per turn he can do that ability. It can really help you out at the end. Stygian Street Patrol, I only one run of these. I've seen people run 2 of them, so I like one. If you Foolish Burial it, put it in the grave to special summon a Mirage if you've already normal summoned for that turn, and then you can start your loop. Well, that finishes off for the monsters. For spells, of course, you have to have Infernity Launcher. It's a staple of this deck. A lot of people forget about the first part of Launcher's effect, where you can, once per turn, you can send 1 Infernity monster from your hand to the graveyard. A lot of people forget that. They really just play it for the secondary ability of sending this card from the field to the grave when you have no hand to special summon 2 Infernity monsters. Then I play 1 for 1. That allows you to discard 1 monster and special summon 1 level 1 monster onto the field, such as Avenger or Mirage if you need either one. Most of the time you're going to go for Mirage, but it really just depends upon the situation in the game. Foolish Burial, great for, Foolish and Plaguespreader or Stygian Street Patrol. Really, same with any of the other cards. It's really based upon circumstances as to what you're going to go for. Rhoda, sometimes I think it can be a dead draw, but lately it's been helping me out to get that Dark Grepher or that Armageddon Knight if I draw it first turn, so that I can go off and ditch some cards into the grave and try to start my game on a roll. Dark Hole, staple. Monster Reborn, staple. Mind Control, I like it. Some people, not everybody runs it. I think it's a good card. You can steal one of their level 4s and you can't tribute it or synchro it, but you can XYZ for it. So that's good. 3 MSTs. I think that they should be a staple in the deck. The deck's basically built upon defending yourself until you can get your swarm onto the field. That's it for the spells. And for the traps, I have 3 barriers. The most OP card in this deck period It's basically a Solemn Judgment for Infernity. So I run a Solemn Judgment in this deck. You basically get 4 Solemn Judgments, and it works out really well. I only run 2 Infernity Infernos. A lot of people say you gotta run 3. I feel like I get a dead draw if I draw 2 Infernity Infernos in the first, my first hand, and so I've been running 2 lately, and I really do get Infernity Inferno when I need it. So it's been helping me a lot lately not to run 3 of them, and it gives me a space open in the deck so I can add in another trap card or something. I run 2 breaks. Some people run 3. 2 is good enough for me. There's not that many times. I don't play that many decks that set a lot of face down cards and play a lot really defensively, so Infernity Break's not always that useful. So I run 2 of those. I run 2 Call of the Haunteds. Great card in this deck. It's settable, so you can set it and then bring Infernity back to the field, and then you're good to go for no hand and activating their effects. The Solemn Brigade, I run 1 Solemn Judgment and 2 Solemn Warnings. Staples in this deck and also most decks. Solemns are just great cards. 1 Starlight Road in case they Heavy Storm or Dark Hole me and I want to try to save my field. 1 Torrential. I do side in another Torrential sometimes. It just depends upon how the deck's going that game or that matchup. And then of course staple 1 Mirror Force. As for the extra deck, I run 1 Allied Justice of Decisive Armor. It's a 3,300 beater, which can overcome certain obstacles that I run into a lot, such as facing Dark Worlds with Grepher and stuff like that, so it's really good. Mist Wurm, of course, I can go for the beetle loops against some people if I want to side in beetles, and then just keep looping their hand, or their cards on the field back into their hand. I run 300 Eyes. I've thought about 2, but sometimes I need 3 in case I lose some of the, I lose a card, or I play it and it gets solemned or something like that, and I really need another one. I run 2 Void Ogres. Void Ogres is a great card. You can go into the 8 Synchro loop with Avenger, Necromancer, Archfiend, and Mirage, and you can get out 2 of these with a Barrier and Infernity Doom Dragon. And it's just a really good loop to have. You can negate up to 3 things, and it's just ridiculous. Of course, Infernity Doom Dragon, great card. Can run it with, Infernity Barrier, Infernity Break, stuff like that. Gaia Knight, the Force of Earth. He's just one of my 6 stars that I basically just have, so I can use him if I need it, in case I think they might have a Solemn, so I don't pull out Brio right away. Brionac, Dragon of the Ice Bearer, Brio, whatever you want to say. Great to, ditch a card and bounce back Levier once you get him out on the field to do that. Mirage loop with Brio and Leviar the Sea Dragon. Ally of Justice, Catastor. Great card. It's just a 5-star that's basically a staple for the Infernity deck, so. Stygian Syringens. This card is ridiculous, especially when I'm going against like Dark Worlds that run Dark World, gates. It gets a plus 300 because it's a fiend, and then it can attack once, and if it kills a monster, it gains 800 attack and can attack again for a 2nd turn. So that's really good. And then for the XYZs, Leviar the Sea Dragon, number 39 Utopia, and Maestro the Symphony Dungeon. This has actually saved me a few times with, it's basically like a Gachi or something like that, where if it would have been destroyed, you can pitch a material, so it saves it. And then I don't really have a full side deck for this deck yet. I would like to have 2 Crevice into the different dimension, but I only have 1 right now. I'd like to have 2 Prohibition, but I only have 1. These are both great cards. Prohibition, Rescue Rabbit, Dinos, you can just call out one of those cards and they can't really play it. Book of Moon, 2 Zero Max. Zero Max are good sometimes. You can pull an Infernity out of the grave, like Infernity Doom Dragon, and it's basically a wipe the field, like a Dark Hole. 1 Pot of Duality. I don't really like it, but sometimes I play it just because of the fact that I don't like the fact, you can't special summon afterwards. Infernity Inferno, 2 D Prisons. I'll usually side these in for Call of the Haunteds if I'm playing a deck where I need to get rid of one of their big monsters. And then the 3 Beetles. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe. Leave comments on what you think I should change about the deck, and thanks a lot.